How many times in life have you been involved in meaningless discussions? Those debates at work when the colleague simply didn't want to hear his arguments, or with a friend who insisted in the point of view, even when you were sure to be right, and family fights. When emotions took over, the words came out without control, and peace seemed increasingly distant. I confess that I've been through this countless times. I was like that. I needed to prove to be right at any cost, defending my opinion to the end. He thought that if he did not argue, he would not be heard or respected. For me, the truth was worth more than relationships. Until life taught me through errors that this was not the best approach. One day something changed my perspective on people and discussions forever. Imagine the following scene. You are sitting at the table and someone starts to argue with you. At first, he responds calmly, then raises his voice a little. His arguments get longer and the louder tone. Suddenly, he realizes that the other person is not even listening. He just expects a gap to interrupt him. Frustration grows, and you feel that helplessness of not being understood, while emotions only intensify. I've been in this situation. I remember an episode at work. A colleague and I discussed a project, and I was sure my approach was the best. I presented data, showed analyses while he defended his point of view. We spent 2 hours in it. Result, the project did not advance, and I got out of there and angry. It was then that I understood. Discussions do not solve problems, they create them. But here's a valuable discovery. There's a simple, almost magical phrase that can be used in any conflicting situation. No screams, no pressure, no insistence. She makes the other person stop arguing. More than that, it transforms the mood of conversation, preserves mutual respect, and makes room for true dialogue. It is not witchcraft, but wisdom that I have accumulated over the years, watching people, learning from my own mistakes, and listening to those who have lived much more than me. Just imagine you are about to get into a conflict when a single sentence changes everything. The person stops, is silent, sometimes even looks at you with surprise, and you can then expose your point of view at the right time. It sounds amazing, but it works. This phrase is, I understand your point of view. Simple, isn't it? But it is precisely the simplicity that gives you strength. By saying it, you show respect. Recognize the other's right to have an opinion without giving up their own position. When I first heard this from a more experienced friend, I was skeptical. I thought, if you don't defend my reason, I will not be taken seriously. But he told me something that was marked. Respect is not about screaming louder, it is about listening and being heard. I decided to try it, and the results surprised me. At work, a colleague questioned every detail of a project. Before, I would enter the defensive, trying to prove my competence with numbers and research. This time, however, I just said, I understand your point of view. He stopped. He looked at me as if waiting more, but I remained silent. A few seconds later, he resumed the conversation calmly, discussing ideas instead of imposing his will. And family. My sister has always been stubborn. We could spend hours arguing from the vacation destination to the menu of a party. Before, I insisted on convincing that my suggestion was better, but the result was always the same: frustration and disagreement, until, in one of these situations, I used the sentence. She stopped. We sat, talked with tranquility, and reached an agreement. A single sentence changed the dynamics, allowing us to hear and keep harmony. There is still a more personal and perhaps painful example for some. When I lost a dear person, many around trying to give advice, discuss how to move on, what to do, how to react. I was vulnerable, and every word hurt. It was then that I realized sometimes people argue simply because they don't know what to say. By recognizing your emotions and opinions without judgment, everything gets lighter. When I said I understand your point of view, the climate loved it. People started to hear themselves, and I felt an internal relief. Why does this phrase work? Because most discussions are not in the truth itself, but about the desire to be recognized, to feel valued. People want to be heard. When you say, I understand your point of view, he is actually saying, I hear you. I respect you. At this point, the energy of the conflict transforms. The other person feels that he was understood and no longer needs to prove anything. But there is a crucial detail. The sentence has only effect if it is sincere. If you say it mechanically, without real empathy, the other person will perceive the falsehood, and the result will be null and void. The secret is not in words, but in the attitude behind them: attention, respect, and the ability to really hear. I use this method every day, and the benefits go beyond personal conflicts. In professional negotiations, work meetings, or even everyday situations, the effect is the same. People come to listen, consider your opinion, and you keep calm and confidence. Over time, I learned that discussing is wasting energy. It's like trying to hold back water. As much as you scream, The only thing you can do is run out. The real force is knowing how to listen to the other without annulling. And this, more than any argument, build solid relationships in a mutual environment. Trying to control the situation is like holding water in your hands. As much as you strive, it will always run between your fingers. Energy spent on empty discussions could be directed to something much more valuable, a constructive dialogue, where the goal is not to win, but to understand and be understood. And here is a detail that makes all the difference. After saying I understand your point of view, take a break. Do not fill the silence with explanations or arguments. Do not hurry to justify your position. Simply give the other person a few seconds to process that they were heard. The effect is surprising. In a matter of moments, you will notice a change. The person or calms or resumes the conversation with a more serene tone. This is because, most of the time, what people seek is not a victory in the debate, but the feeling that their words have value. In life, we constantly come across individuals determined to prove that they are right at any cost. If you get into this dispute, you will spend years on battles that lead nowhere. But if you learn to listen, to recognize the perspective of the other, and to use the simple phrase with sincerity, you will preserve your inner peace, your relationships, and respect for you. Therefore, my most important advice is do not strive to always be right. Sometimes wisdom is not to argue, but in listening. Sometimes strength is in silence and understanding. In the next part, I will show you how to apply this approach in everyday life, how it can transform your relationships, your work environment, and even the way you see conflicts. I will also share practical tips to make this habit natural as a second nature. And believe me, it's not just words. It is a small but powerful millennial wisdom, tested and proven by generations who understood that true intelligence is not in winning but connecting. Now we come to the closure of this conversation. We analyze as a single sentence, I understand your point of view, can change the course of any discussion. We saw real examples, from professional situations to intense emotional moments, in which these words avoided ruptures and built bridges. But the most important thing is to understand that this phrase is not just a set of words, it is a posture towards life. When you say, I understand your point of view, he is demonstrating that he knows how to really hear. It is showing respect for the other, even if it disagrees. And it is this respect that becomes the basis for any healthy relationship. Maybe you are thinking, but what if the person abuses it? What if they press even more? I understand your concern. Here, the key is authenticity. This phrase only works when it comes from the heart, not as a manipulation strategy or defensive shield. It should not be used to control, but to create understanding. The more you practice sincere listening, the more you realize how the people around you begin to change, not by imposition, but by influence. I went through this transformation myself. At first, I thought giving in a discussion was losing, but life taught me something different. Giving in is not failure. Failure is gas, energy, and conflicts that lead to nothing. When you understand each other, when it shows respect, it gains something much greater: trust, tranquility, harmony, and an inner freedom that no debate can offer. Allow me to share one more reflection. We often argue with those we love, partners, children, parents, friends. At these times, it is even more crucial to know, lower your voice and set aside the need to prove that is right. This simple phrase is a powerful tool in these situations. It makes people stop, listen, and, above all, feel that they are also heard. And then the true wisdom lies. People don't argue in search of the truth, but looking to feel important. When you validate their opinion, not only reduces tension, but make room for a real dialogue, the one that approaches instead of injuring. Another lesson I learned over time: calm is contagious. If you keep serenity, even in times of tension, the others react differently. They stop screaming, start listening, and often even abandon stubbornness simply because they realize that you are not feeding the fire of emotions. This is the real victory, not on the other, but about their own reactions, about the urge to enter each discussion. I want you to keep a central idea. Life is too short to be spent on meaningless fights, proving that it is right where it makes no difference. The real force is knowing how to hear, to demonstrate respect, to be wise and quiet. Practice this sentence every day. At first, it can be difficult, especially if you are used to arguing, but over time, it will notice the changes: less stress, less friction, more confidence and consideration of the people around you. This is not magical. It is proven experience for time. And here is one last advice: don't limit yourself to words. Listen with your eyes, with your heart. The true understanding goes beyond the sentences. It is genuine attention. It is real interest in the other. So I understand your point of view becomes much more than an expression, turns a bridge between you and people. Never a wall. So what do we learn today? That discussions do not solve problems, they create them. That a simple phrase can stop a conflict and turn the mood around you. That sincerity and respect are what they give power to these words. That true wisdom is not in winning, but in understanding. And that calm and attention to others are the strength that builds relationships and preserves their inner balance. If you take this advice seriously, I guarantee your life will be lighter, your strongest bonds, and your freer energy. You will stop wasting it in empty conflicts and will invest it in what really matters to create, celebrate, and achieve significant things. Finally, a small but valuable reminder: do not expect extreme situations to apply this principle. Start in the little things at work, in a queue, with friends, on social networks. Train listening, practice understanding, and observe how, gradually, the world around you transforms. If this content has resonated with you, if you want more practical tips, stories, and reflections like this, follow the channel. Leave your like and share with those who can also benefit from this wisdom. Remember, the real change is not what we say, but what we do. Each time you use this phrase with intention, you will be taking a step towards the best version of yourself, more harmonious relationships, and a more meaningful life. Thank you for being here until the end. Practice, note, learn, and see how everything around you starts to improve. Until next time, where we will continue exploring the simple but deep wisdom that has resisted time and continues to turn lives.